Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our local COVID conversations with David Kent, CEO at Piedmont Newton, and Dr. Norris Little, CMO at Piedmont Newton. They've kept us going over this past year and really keeping us up to date with the most current information here at home and in our state. So with that, I'm going to start with David for you to kind of give us a local update with what's going on there at Piedmont Newton.
Well, thanks, Debbie, and good to be with you again, and hope everybody watching is having a great week. My part of the update this week is going to be fairly short, just because mainly, we're seeing very steady but relatively low COVID numbers into the hospital. Obviously, I don't want to minimize the impact of COVID on the people who have it. It's a very difficult disease, in some cases devastating. But our job at our level is to look at the overall picture. And as I look at the overall picture, we are very stable right now with respect to the amount of COVID patients we have and are serving in our hospitals. And really, that's been the case over the last several weeks. So no change there. Staffing is good. Supplies are good. Everything looks absolutely fine from a hospital perspective. So, but I did want to talk, Debbie, about mobile vaccine clinics that Piedmont Newton is offering to businesses in our county. And we didn't advertise this more broadly because we wanted to get them set up and make sure that we could do it effectively and properly. But we have now successfully done 5 or 6 mobile vaccine clinics at local businesses inside of Newton County, and those have all gone very well. The idea here is we really wanted to try to create the most convenient option for you as a business manager or business owner to have your employees vaccinated. We set up. Really, we need some space, and we need a place for your employees to wait for 15 minutes after we administer the vaccine. But it's gone very, very well. And so we obviously can't do it for all businesses of all size. There's a certain scale we need to have to make it make sense. But if you're a mid to large business here in Covington and you think you might benefit from having our mobile vaccine clinic come to your organization, get in touch with the chamber. And I think something's going to flash across the screen here. There it is. So it's info@newtonchamber.com. Send them an email, and then we'll get in touch with you around the possibility of potentially having one of these mobile vaccine clinics at your business. So really excited to partner with some of our members on this. And I would love to say that if chamber members sign up, they'll get a discount, but it's been for everyone. So, but certainly we would love the opportunity to take care of our fellow chamber members to the extent possible. So let us know, and there's the link down there, and feel free to reach out. So that's really all I have. I think the big conversation this week is really going to revolve around Johnson & Johnson. The news coming out that vaccine has been on pause, and for that I'll kick it over to my colleague and Community Light Award winner, Norris Little, for his update this week.
Thanks,
Hello,
Dave.
everyone. Grateful for the opportunity to talk about vaccination. I think the big message for our country is that I think close to 150 million people have at least received a dose of vaccine in the U.S., which is great news. And I just want to say that we continue to think that vaccination is the most important way that we have of protecting our population from COVID and the severe illness that can come from COVID. And also in line with that is that the COVID that is currently circulating in the U.S. is not quite the same COVID that was circulating back in March, April, May, June, July through the summer and the fall. The predominant COVID that's currently circulating are variants. And a couple of things we know about the variants are that they are more contagious, so they're more easily spread from person to person. And some of the variants cause more severe illness. And so that's not true for all of them, but some of them do. Like the Brazilian variant definitely can cause more severe illness in younger patient populations. So we're still, the vaccine is really our main protection. And we know that the vaccines that are currently available do protect even with the variants, so that if someone has been vaccinated and they get a COVID variant, they're just not going to get severe COVID, and that's the important message around that. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is the single dose vaccine that was approved several weeks ago. And to date in the U.S., there were about 6.8 million doses given out, maybe more at this time. And and monitoring that, they have discovered basically 6 cases of patients that developed an unusual problem with blood clotting. And this is very similar to the complication that's been seen with the AstraZeneca vaccine in Europe. Very, very similar. And in fact, the 2 vaccines are fairly similar in the way that they work. There's been the recommendation, and we were giving Johnson & Johnson vaccine here. We have not seen any issues in our community with that vaccine. But you can imagine the incidence of the complication is 1 in a million. So, I mean, it's an extremely rare complication that can occur with this. Just the facts around it are that it was seen, at least in this country, only in 6 female participants. In a little bit younger age range, about 18 to 48 years old. And so I think they're just putting a hold on this until we can look at whether any others, or they can identify any others that might be at risk for this blood clotting disorder. And then they may make some recommendations around continuing it. So just to put it in perspective, though, when you have a complication rate of 1 in a million, I mean, your chances of getting, I think David pointed out this week, getting struck by lightning are probably higher than that. So we want to be safe with the vaccines, and we want, if possible, to have 0 complications. But there are very few things in life where we have 0 risk. But if you look at the 40-year-old, if we look at a 40-year-old population in this country, if we took, 1 million of them and, were potentially got COVID, the risk of death in that 1 million would be at least 5 to 10. Whereas the risk of getting a complication from the vaccine would be less than 1. So when you put the risk in perspective, the risk of a complication with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is still much, much less than the risk of severe disease and possibly death from getting COVID. So, I think that we'll see when they've examined this more carefully, whether there will be any changes in terms of either age groups or, individuals that might I think in Europe with AstraZeneca, it's been a more common complication. And some of the countries there have limited that vaccine to certain age groups, but we'll just have to see what the recommendations are with Johnson & Johnson. So I think the vaccine will continue to be used because it's so much more convenient for patients. It's a one-dose vaccine, and it is also effective in preventing severe disease from COVID. But we'll wait for the CDC recommendations about that. Currently, we have transitioned in Piedmont to the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. So we are giving the 2-dose vaccinations and continuing our vaccination programs, both with in our communities, with patients, and now with some of our opportunities with our local workforces and businesses. So, the only other thing with the Johnson & Johnson, I think, as far as I know, there's only been one death associated with that. So we're looking at, even from a critical illness or a death standpoint, from that, basically about 1 in 7 million. So it's again extremely rare side effect. And I don't know if there are any specific questions that people might have related to that. That's the summary of it as I can give it, but if there are any specific things, I'll try to answer that as well.
Thank you to both of you. And we don't have any specific questions, but I appreciate how you all both are able to put these things into perspective for us. And that means a lot, because in the day and age we live in, a lot of times the negative is so sensationalized that we don't take time to sit back and think and look at the actual data and the perspective of it. So that's a great perspective that you were able to give us on the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Dr. Little, I do appreciate that very much. And I'm 1 shot in. I get my 2nd shot on Monday, thanks to Piedmont Newton. So and I've had no side effects so far either. So I'm looking forward to being fully vaccinated. So thank you guys for that. And just a huge thank you, David, for supporting our businesses and really helping them get their workforce the vaccination. How about that?
I would say just some, we have something at Piedmont we call promise stories. And promise stories are basically stories around things that are done, that people do, that, kind of go above and beyond to provide care for patients or support one another in the work that we do. And one of the things I heard today from our staff that have been out to some of the vaccination clinics is they've encountered people that are afraid. They're afraid of getting vaccinated, but because there was someone there who could answer their questions, they were willing to go ahead and get a vaccination. And to me, that's a promise story, that they were able to share their own experience with vaccination, to share their confidence of safety regarding vaccination, and that the employees at the business were then, their fears were kind of at least put to the side, and they were willing to come and get vaccinated. So to me, that's a promise story.
Yeah. I love those promise stories that y'all do. And I think the entire Piedmont Newton team and everything you've done is one big promise story for our entire community. So I know people that have heard you both speak, that have personally that have changed their mind on getting vaccines. So just thank you for that, because I think it just puts us one step, maybe 10 steps closer to getting back to normal with getting some of these vaccines out there. So appreciate it. And also, just before we close, I do want to say that Newton County is opening a mass vaccination spot at Georgia Piedmont Technical College.
Yes.
So a couple different options there for the private citizens as well. So anything before we wrap up?
Thanks for all the kudos and nice words, Debbie. It's our job and it's our pleasure to serve this community. We'll keep doing it. And, look forward to talking with you all next time.
Yes. Thanks. So we'll be back in 2 weeks to give another update and see where things are. And so I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.